So let me be brief, if also a bit of a downer, a voice of doom here. I salute everyone who is working in the humanitarian field and helping Palestinian children in particular as much as possible. I salute the civil society activists and leaders who are trying to put pressure on their governments and trying to organize boycotts of companies that continue to fuel the killing machine in Israel. However, and with a heavy heart, with a sad heart, I don't think any of these heroic deeds, particularly the medical association like Med Global and others, who work heroically to save lives in Gaza and elsewhere. I don't think these efforts are likely to stop the war that's going on right now. The war on Gaza is unprecedented. You have to go back to the Nazi Germany to find the equivalence of the savagery of the war that has been perpetrated on the Palestinian people. And before Nazi Germany, if you want to go back in history, you have to go back to the Vikings and their conquests in Europe and the savagery of those conquests to find something similar. And and I'm sure all of you, I'm appalled that something like this could be taking place in the 21st century, and much of the world is watching and not being able to stop it. There are, very briefly, some logical scenarios here. As an analyst, say yes, there could be changes inside Israel if there is a radical shift to the left. There are some very well-meaning Israelis who are very pro-Palestinian and very anti-war. If that shift happens, that could, of course, stop the war, but I don't think this is very likely. The left in Israel is a minority. It's nowhere near the seat of power. The second option, scenario, is a change in the United States. There was an earlier reference to the elections coming up. I, for the first time in the US, will not be voting this year because between the thief in chief, Donald Trump, and Biden, who disappointed me and most of the Democrats and the liberals in the country, he has blood on his hands, and I cannot give him my vote. Unfortunately, the government, the Biden administration, and anybody who's likely to replace it in the near future, there's a big gap between them and a changing public opinion in the US, particularly among the youth, which is pro-Palestinian and which is against this blind support that the US has been giving to Israel. However, I don't think this wave is going to have an impact in the near future. Between Donald Trump and Biden is no choice, not for America and not for the Palestinian people. There are some excellent people in Congress. The progressive front in Congress, Bernie Sanders, and about 10 or 12 members of Congress, any one of them would be an excellent leader for the US and would do their utmost to stop this genocidal war against the Palestinians. But again, realistically, I don't see this happening. There could be a change due to the civil society activism in Europe, enough pressure from NGOs to change the attitude. We just had an election in France. The advent of the left, and also they haven't formed a government yet, but a government of the left in Paris would make a difference, would be a different voice from the voices that have been coming out of France lately. But in the end of the day, it's going to be one voice. There's a NATO summit going on in Washington tomorrow. That French voice won't be there because the government hasn't been formed yet. But the majority right now in members of NATO, they've put Ukraine as top one on their agenda. Mutual defense, what kinds of weapons, what's the budget for our defense. Those are the issues they're talking about. Palestine is not on the agenda. The Turkish President Erdogan has promised to raise it, but I don't see much happening as a result of that. So if these scenarios, which peacefully lead to an end to this war and a new serious peace initiative, if these are all unrealistic in the near and even medium term, then the only thing I see left as an analyst is, as Churchill said, there's nothing to look forward to here except blood, sweat, and tears. I see the violence continuing. There's a voice from Israel a week ago before I left the US. I'm not in the US right now, which said that they promised to turn Beirut into another Gaza. My response was, you could destroy Beirut 10 times over. It will change nothing. You will still be at war in the Middle East. And each year you will lose more and more because of that antagonism. I unfortunately see that logically the only thing that will pressure Israel ultimately is a very forceful military response to the Israeli aggression, which ultimately may convince them that they are not going to keep winning forever. They are no longer facing weak Arab armies. They are facing the axis of resistance. These are people who are totally dedicated and who are serious and will not stop fighting. And the military capabilities are increasing in sophistication. The sacrifice of a major war on Lebanon right now will be tremendous. Lebanon will be crushed, but at the same time, Israel will not win, and it will be a very costly, bloody war for them. So I'm sorry, but I must conclude with, I see nothing but violence ahead. Everything we can do to save Palestinian lives is well worth the effort. But in the end, it's going to be war. It's going to be, if the governments of the world are not willing to put serious pressure on Israel, the people who are fighting the Israeli army are the ones who are going to put the pressure ultimately. And that's it from my end.